Welcome to Community Partners Spotlight. I'm here with Georgia Hensley from Spring Haven, and we're going to talk about domestic violence. So, Georgia, can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I have been at Spring Haven for, 8 months. 8 months. Before that, I was in charge of Title IX at Butler University in Indianapolis. And prior to that, I was a practicing attorney in Louisville. But again, I've been here in the Elizabethtown area and at Spring Haven for about 8 months now. And we are running and sort of doing an overhaul of the domestic violence program here in Elizabethtown. And we've made a lot of changes. We're very excited about it.
That's wonderful. Can you tell us what law school you went to?
Yeah, I went to the Brandeis School of Law at the University of Louisville. Go Cards. I was there for undergrad as well.
Wait, maybe UK here.
I know.
Okay, so what inspired you to work with Spring Haven?
So I personally am a survivor myself. And
did it help you get your power back?
From when I was practicing, you were dealt a difficult card as an attorney on behalf of a survivor because you're left with whatever the court decides. And so many times you do your best and the survivor still walks away without the protection that they need from a court. But I did see that in all of the cases that I worked, the shelters, the domestic violence programs were able to still make positive change even when the court system wouldn't. And so this was my way of being able to make the change that I wanted to make, even when I am not a judge and am not a courtroom.
So can you tell us what the mission of Spring Haven is? What is it that you all accomplish?
Yeah, so at Spring Haven we really have a 3-tier, I think, system of addressing domestic violence and violence in general. The first is that we like to support our survivors so that they can leave a situation. This is really simple. This is the first stage of the healing journey, and that's getting out of a situation that can be toxic or harmful, a dangerous situation. So we support them through that process and make sure that they're safe. Then we educate survivors and our community, not just the survivors, but our community as well, on what domestic violence means, what violence means, what healthy boundaries are, and what boundaries are in general. And like I said, we're fortunate to get to do that, not just with our survivors, but with our community as well. And then the last piece really that I think we strive for is empowering a future without violence. Our hope is that our work educating both our survivors and our community can empower that future without violence.
Now, just for people who don't fully understand what domestic violence is, can you give us some examples?
Yeah, so domestic violence doesn't just mean, we commonly think of domestic violence as a husband or wife hitting their husband or wife. But it's not that simple. First of all, domestic in the state of Kentucky doesn't just mean a husband and wife. We understand all intimate partner violence to be something that we deal with. So dating violence for young couples, teenagers, even younger couples is something we deal with as well. And we see it. We see that happen. Those relationships can become violent too, and I'll talk about kind of what violence means in a second, but those are the relationships that we cover. Any partnerships at all that are intimate in nature. And actually, even in certain cases, domestic, defined by the state of Kentucky, can also include family violence. So scenarios where an aunt or uncle or niece or nephew or son or daughter is violent with their elderly mother or father or some other family member that they reside with, that can also be domestic. But violence violence doesn't just mean hitting like we used to think. It means, isolation. It can mean taking your phone away. It can mean tracking your location on your phone, texting and calling you repeatedly, controlling when you can access money.
Yeah, that, some of that is harassment and stalking even. So you try to improve their future as well, right? So once they get out, you try to expand and help them. How long do you normally work with a person?
So that can range. We don't stop working with a survivor until they don't need us anymore. We will provide case management in terms of their housing and what's required for their housing for up to 2 years. Those services are the services that we really, I think, see the most need for, helping them obtain affordable housing, maintain that housing, so continue to be able to pay their rent. That's something we don't want any of our survivors to be without a roof over their heads. But then other than that, we help to work with other community partners to make sure that they take career classes, and have any access to any public programs that we can, so that they have good careers, good jobs, all the resources that they could possibly need to never have to call us again, right? That's the goal.
So speaking of calling, when domestic violence occurs, right, and they may not reach out the first time, I know there is a crisis hotline as well. Can you tell us what the phone number is and how people can use that?
Yeah, so the phone number is 270-769-1234. And you can call at any time, 24/7. Anyone can call. And essentially what the person on the other end of the phone is going to be doing is really responding to your needs. If you are in need of a place to stay immediately in an emergency, we're going to make sure that you have that. Whether it's inside of our shelter walls or in a hotel room, we're going to make sure that that person has the access to that emergency place to stay. Then we're going to make sure that they are walked through how to safely exit a dangerous situation. Our staff is specially trained to do this type of work, to help people exit specifically dangerous and unique situations like that, and so they walk them through a safety plan, what needs to happen in order for them to leave, what they need to bring with them.
So what should a person do if they feel unsafe at home or work or out in public? What should they do in response to feeling unsafe?
So the first thing I want to say is we're not a substitute for 911. So if you feel like someone is immediately going to cause you physical harm, you need to call the police.
Yeah.
We are not the police. But if you need help exiting a dangerous situation, so a relationship, you should give the hotline a call immediately. And then the hotline will ask you a variety of questions. The first one is it safe for us to talk right now? And on that phone call, they're going to ask you what has happened to you, what the nature of your exact situation is, so that they can better determine how to get you out of that situation, how to extricate the person.
And that's where you guys set up an exit plan,
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's set to meet different needs, right? So it's personalized.
Right. One person couldn't, if your partner, if the perpetrator, the alleged perpetrator, works during the day, then one person might just be able to leave during the day. Whereas in a totally different situation, you may not be able to leave, just walk out during the middle of the day.
What should a person take if they need to leave? What are the things they will need?
I will tell you right now that at Spring Haven, your safety is the most concerning element. Do not stick around to gather items. We can replace identifying documents, personal property can be replaced. In the state of Kentucky, it is illegal to cause harm to another person's property. That's a form of domestic violence and can be seen as a form of domestic violence, so do not be concerned with your property. The laws exist to protect that. What we have to be concerned about is safety, so I usually tell survivors, don't worry about it. Bring the clothes on your back, bring your kids, bring your pets. Pass your kids and your pets. We will give you clothes, we will give you food, we will help you replace your birth certificate, social security cards, whatever the needs may be, but just get out.
That's amazing. You guys are really stepping up for the community. And there's a lot of this that goes on that no one ever sees, you know. And it's not always young people. You see older people going through the same thing. Now, you all work with the courts as well for like our domestic violence orders or restraining orders. You all help get those as well?
Yes, so we have what's called an outreach advocate, and those advocates are trained to go into courtrooms and answer the survivor's question and be there for the survivor during these hearings, to answer their questions, to help them speak for themselves, to guide them through the process. They're not attorneys. I think I am the only attorney that works at Spring Haven. These people are not attorneys, but they have been doing this work in courtrooms and are trained to do the work in courtrooms. And our judges are great and are willing to listen to the outreach advocates, and that ability of the advocates to get to speak and help the survivor is really unique.
You know, we have children, like you were saying, we have children. When you are removing a child from a domestic violence situation, do we see that as maybe a tool to keep people at home because they don't know what to do with the children? Yeah,
so we see a lot of survivors who refuse to leave, and statistically, the data shows this as well. Survivors refuse to leave these situations because they fear that the state or some other person will come and take their kids, or that their kids will get wrapped up in a court system, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And that does happen, but at Spring Haven, we actually have the ability to work with the cabinet and we work with the state. So what I mean by that is we have a child advocate that goes to court to work with families who are dealt with that exact issue. We offer parenting classes that deal with that requirement and often help protect our survivors from any negative impacts. We offer those in shelter.
Now, I think we all know that leaving is the most dangerous thing you can do. And I really hope to see people reach out to you and to the organization. Can you tell us how they can do that? Like, I believe I saw it on, I just Googled Spring Haven and it came up. Is there anything else that we can do to get that information?
Yeah, so you can reach out right now. You can DM us on Facebook. You can DM us on Instagram. We have people that are really adept at using social media that are responding to those requests. And those function like a crisis line too. So if you need help, you can still go to those places and seek help. You can also, for younger people, that's probably a lot easier than calling a crisis hotline. For those of us who prefer to hear somebody on the phone, you can always call the crisis line. Even if you aren't necessarily in crisis, but you need to talk to somebody about your situation, still call the crisis line. You don't have to be in an absolute crisis to call the crisis line. And then other than that, the contact form on our website goes to all of our emails, and we will respond to those usually within the day.
Well, thank you for being here with us today and all the information you can provide. And thanks for being with us today as we talked about hard topics, abuse, neglect. But we provided resources, and we really hope that you reach out if you're in need or someone you know is in need. I hope that this experience and show will allow you to reach out to resources in Hardin County. Thank you for being with us. And again, thank you for being with us as well.
Absolutely.